Good afternoon. My name is Chad Boutet. I'm the Director of Engineering Grants for Genesee, Wyoming's Northern Region Railroads. My presentation today will be a regional freight railroad perspective of New England railroad infrastructure. Quick agenda of the topics I'll be covering today. In the interest of time, we'll jump right in. Overview of G&W, 116 railroads. G&W is the largest owner and operator of short line and regional railroads in the country. Total of 7,300 employees, 3,000 customers, 13,000 track miles, and 2.4 million carloads annually. Looking at the G&W properties in New England, we start off with the Providence and Worcester, 612 miles of operations. Operates in 4 states throughout New England: Mass, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York. And P&W is also a tenant railroad on Amtrak's Northeast Corridor and Metro North Railroad. Connecticut Southern, a total of 90 miles, including trackage rates. CSO operates as a tenant on Amtrak's Springfield line and provides local freight service between Springfield and New Haven and in the Hartford, Connecticut area. New England Central Railroad operates north-south from the U.S.-Canadian border at Alburgh, New York, to the Atlantic Ocean at the Port of New London. Total 384 miles. NECR is a host railroad to Amtrak's Vermonter service that operates from the Mass-Vermont border to St. Albans, Vermont. Look at our infrastructure across New England. Get the numbers there of assets that we maintain. When it comes to our maintenance capital, you can see about 75% is of that is spent direct on the track and bridges, with a large portion being spent on our ties. Some of the challenges that we face in New England: high population density. So we have a large number of grade crossings, bridges, utilities, and public works projects relative to other parts of the country. Construction dates, old infrastructure. A lot of these railroads were built in the 1840s to 1850s. We have a lot of curvature. A lot of our railroad alignments follow rivers. We're fortunate to have a lot of steel bridges versus timber on a lot of our lines in other parts of the country. The downside being we also have rating issues with some of these steel bridges, specifically on floor systems, on truss and through girder bridges. New England, it's no surprise to anyone, there was a lot of deindustrialization during the mid-20th century. So a lot of these lines were never upgraded as a result of traffic declining. So a large portion of the lines are jointed rail. They were never laid with welded rail because of that decline in traffic, and also lower historical investment in these lines just because of that shift over the decades. Some challenges associated with commingled freight and passenger rail. We operate on Amtrak's Northeast Corridor and Springfield line, and that's on infrastructure that's predominantly set up for high-speed passenger rail. Conversely, NECR is a host railroad to Amtrak's Vermonter service that is Amtrak operating on infrastructure that is more set up for freight operations. Finally, a lot of our lines we consider the end of the line. If you think of the national rail network, like the circulatory system in your body, the transcontinental main line is the aorta, and by the time you reach New England, we're not quite to the fingertips, but we're in the hand. So there's a lower density of traffic, and a lot of our traffic is flowing into New England with not a lot of through traffic. So there's a lower density of traffic. So one of the approaches to solve some of these challenges is using public-private partnerships with state and federal grant programs. So we identify projects and needs, develop the project to address the identified need. The projects have to produce both private benefits for the railroad and public benefits for the sponsor. So some examples of that: new business development, increased rail car weight, velocity, safety and reliability, emissions, modal conversions, and grade crossing delays. They're typically infrastructure upgrades and improvements. So this is in addition to our ordinary maintenance cycles. And the railroad contributes matching funds depending on the specific funding program. In some instances, for federal programs, the state may contribute matching funds as well. So that results in a three-way cost split for some of these projects. And so what these do is the grant funding encourages private sector infrastructure investment from the railroad to accomplish larger results that may have been out of reach had it not been for the project. This shows 7 of our ongoing or completed projects, larger projects in New England. It's no coincidence here that projects 1 through 6 are all kind of along the same corridor. That was largely a program consisting of multiple projects over a number of years to improve the line between East Alberg at the Canadian border and New London. So these projects were a variety of federal and state projects, most of these being federal. Number 6 there was a Connecticut state of Connecticut rail freight grant. And also the other thing to point out in these is that all three of these are from different New England states. So some of these were partnering with the state of Vermont, state of Massachusetts, and the state of Connecticut. So some future opportunities or upcoming opportunities here with for further partnerships. There's the RAISE grants, federal RAISE grants, which is the relaunch of the Build and the Tiger programs. So these are typically for larger scale projects. They define it as significant local or regional impact. And also these are open to all modes of transportation. So submitting a rail project, you're competing against the other transportation modes. There's the CRISI program that is for rail projects only. And also there's the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the infrastructure bill that's currently in Congress. Current amount of that is $5.5 billion in discretionary for infrastructure projects. So on the state side, a lot of the New England states emphasize investment in passenger rail. Conversely, some other Northeast and Midwest states, namely New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan, have dedicated annual freight rail infrastructure programs. I've highlighted here the programs for different states. Most of these are more customer-centric programs for rail customers and rail business development. Connecticut has a rail freight improvement program. It had not been funded for several years, but was just funded again this year. So we're pretty excited about that opportunity. And then additionally, in addition to the state programs, the states have the opportunity to participate in the federal programs through matching fund contributions. So a few takeaways here is that when we do these grants, the railroad can determine the benefits from the infrastructure investment after completion of the projects. We can see reduction in track defects, reduction in derailments, operational improvements, changes in volumes. But for these projects to be successful, there also has to be public benefits. So during the application process, benefit cost analysis is performed by economists to try and predict the benefits. But the question I'll put out for today is, how can we measure the overall economic benefits from these projects? And I ask this because in supporting this investment in infrastructure, how can we utilize these benefits to encourage further investment in New England's railroad infrastructure? So with that, that concludes my presentation for today. I'll look forward to taking any questions following the presentation. Thanks.